Minecraft throughout the years has been focusing on feature-filled, non-major updates, and that gets me wondering, is it worth having features released outside of major updates, and if so, how much should they really focus in on that? But to do that, we should really know the differences between a major feature-filled update and a minor feature-filled update. A major feature-filled update is focused around one major theme, fleshing it out as much as you physically can, while adding several different ways on playing that specific theme. Say with 1.21, the Trial Chambers giving you several different reasons to go into the underground, several different ways to play around with many different types of copper blocks, tough blocks, chains, and many other different types of things, new types of features and ways you could actually play the features, such as vaults, new variants of spawners, new variants of pottery shards, and several different types of things which actually fully flesh out a major yearly feature-filled update. A minor feature-filled update in this case focuses on adding brand new features we've yet to see inside the game, but doesn't necessarily have like a big enough theme to actually flesh out an entire major yearly update. They're actually also pretty sporadic in when they actually come out and when they actually add different types of features, and in many cases wouldn't completely fit in with the main theme of like the major yearly feature-filled update. Those minor feature-filled updates are completely different from when we get like parody feature-filled updates where certain features from one game, say like Java Edition, gets over to Bedrock Edition. Say when we got crawling and crouching and things like that. That was already a pre-existing feature which was just ported over from Java to Bedrock. Things like armadillos and everything with them, completely new for both editions. Completely brand new types of game mechanics and things like that. In general, that's what I'm seeing when I'm looking between the differences from major feature-filled updates and minor feature-filled updates. Both of them have new features we've never seen before. One of them has a theme which could actually be fleshed out in several different types of ways, whereas the other doesn't necessarily quite fit in that, or does fit inside the major feature-filled update theme, but just couldn't get inside that update in time. And to get a real feel of it, I'm going to show off four major examples of minor updates holding brand new feature-filled features, such as Java's 1.11.1 update, which actually added the Firework Rocket Booster thing equipped to Elytras, the Iron Nugget, and the Sweeping Edge enchantment, which is still only accessible in Java Edition, the 1.16.2 update, which actually added the Piglin Brood inside of it, the Armadillo's Armored Paws update, which is the most recent example of it, where it added everything to do with the armadillo and everything to do with the wolf armor and things like that, and presumably, as of recording this video, this hasn't been released yet, but presumably soon to be, bundles coming out relatively soon. A new way in actually storing up and cleaning up the inventory problem just slightly. With looking back at all these previous and soon to be future examples, what constitutes them being in their own update rather than just in the major update it was supposed to be released in? I couldn't find any like major reasons as to why it was in its own update, but I assume it was just an afterthought with all these. Either that or they just didn't have enough time, such as what actually happened with the Piglin Brood. They literally just ran out of time and actually adding in this one mob they were planning on adding. 1.16 was supposed to be like 3 or 4 times bigger than what it actually was, and I assume they just wanted to get this update out on its own and still wanted to release the Piglin Brood. Armored Paws, I have no idea why they released it early. I assume maybe just because it wouldn't really necessarily fit inside the theme of like the Tricky Trials update as a whole, where one update focused on an entire structure, whereas this focused on like pretty much an entirely different thing. Bundles, they're releasing just because it didn't really necessarily fit back in the 1.17 theme and how like touch controls struggled with it, so they had to really figure out how to actually make it work on touch, and now that they have, it should hopefully be in a future update relatively soon. But yeah, do they constitute actually being in their own updates? That's the big question. That's the major question. Well, a lot of these, or at least the first two of these, were pretty much like either afterthoughts or just ran out of time in the major update. And I think generally speaking, they are still very welcome additions to the game. Like, how different would the game be without Firework Rocket Boost? How different would it be if we didn't have Iron Nuggets? For Java players, how different would it be without Sweeping Edge? How different would the Bastion Remnant be without the Piglin Brood? And I think, generally speaking, if there are features they were planning on actually adding but then just ran out of time, I think that's fine. I think something like that is absolutely okay. I think like with something like this, where again, it just didn't necessarily fit inside like the main update theme for whatever reason, I think something like this is fine, despite 1.21 being mainly focused on like trials and tinkering, pretty much is what the update was about. And Wolf Armor obviously would have fit really neatly inside the whole trials and whole combat thing, but despite that, us getting it a little bit earlier isn't the end of the world. And bundles, it's a big mess with bundles. It's a huge mess as to why we had to wait so long to get bundles. And it still constitutes asking, should this be in its own update, or should it wait until it's like in a major update in 1.22 or something like that? Well, I think like generally speaking, none of these had like any major impact on the developmental cycle of the game in many different ways. Apart from like one or two features on this list, I think most of them were just something that would benefit being inside the game, but just couldn't make it inside like the main update. That's what I see most of these features being. And is that a problem? Not really, because most of them, again, they're fairly minor features when you really think about it. This is just like a reskin Piglin. This is just like kind of a reskin Golden Nugget. This is kind of like just another form of armor, kind of like horses or something like that. Like many of these features and many of these items, like they didn't really constitute too much effort, which didn't really pull away that much effort from the main updates that were actually focused around and surrounding around. So with that, is it worth focusing more on these minor updates with brand new features? I think so long as it's not too resource intensive that takes too much focus away from like main updates, I think we should be open to the idea of just new features being released inside of minor updates. I think like overall it does benefit the game in some ways. It does bring new life into what is expected to be a year-long refresh of new life, as opposed to now us having new life coming in probably every few months every now and then. Let me know what you think of minor feature-filled updates down below, but until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.